There are some cases in the world that may never be solved, and today we're going to talk about some of the most crazy unsolved cases that ever existed. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Spooky Sunday video. So as I said in the little intro of this video, we are going to be talking about unsolved cases that may never be solved. As always, the source will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read it or look at it or anything like that. But without further ado, let's get straight into the first unsolved case. So the first unsolved case is the murders of Jack the Ripper, and I will go ahead and read it for you guys now. In the early hours of August 31st, 1888, the body of 43-year-old Marianne Nichols was found in the Whitechapel district of London's East End. Her murder is considered to be the first in what became a string of serial murders attributed to Jack the Ripper. Also referred to at the time as Leather Apron, Jack the Ripper terrorized London's East End by violently murdering sex workers. Letters claiming to be from the Ripper were also sent to the press and law enforcement in an effort to taunt the Metropolitan Police for being unable to catch the killer. In addition to Nichols, researchers believe that Jack the Ripper was responsible for the 1888 murders of Annie Chapman on September 8th, Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes on September 30th, and Mary Kelly on November 9th. The Ripper's murders became more and more violent over time. Eddowes' kidney was stolen and part of it was later sent in one of the Ripper's letters. Kelly's body was so mutilated she reportedly could only be identified by her eyes and ears. Despite the identification of multiple suspects over the past century and a half, plus advancements in DNA testing, Jack the Ripper's identity remains a mystery. I feel like Jack the Ripper is one of those cases where at this point, even if they knew who did it, I don't think they'd ever tell, because they make too much money from the mystery. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it is treated like an urban legend even though it's not an urban legend, because people literally lost their lives. But I just feel like even if they did find out who actually did it, they probably would never tell because of the mystery. And I wouldn't be surprised if they already know who actually did it, especially like the article says with advancements in DNA. I just feel like they definitely should know who's done it by now, but I don't think we'll ever find out. Realised I was very zoomed in, so I've kind of zoomed me out a little bit because I feel like I was very close to my face. But the next unsolved mystery is the murder of Elizabeth Shaw, also known as the Black Dahlia. During a morning walk on January 15th, 1947 in the Leimert Park neighbourhood of LA, local resident Betty Bersinger and her young son came upon the dismembered body of 22-year-old Elizabeth Short. Short's body had been mutilated, cleaned and placed in an abandoned lot. Perhaps most disturbing was the fact that Short's body had been cut in half, with her lower torso placed several inches away from her upper torso. Short's murder became an instant media sensation and she was dubbed the Black Dahlia, in reference to the popular film The Blue Dahlia. At the time of the murder, police investigated approximately 150 suspects and believed someone with medical knowledge had tortured, mutilated and dismembered Short, then left her remains in the abandoned lot. In the days following January 15th, the LAPD received an anonymous letter likely written by the killer, along with some of Short's personal belongings. Many still believe Elizabeth Short was murdered by Dr. George Hodel, who was previously a suspect in his secretary's murder. Hodel's son, Steve Hodel, went on to become an LAPD detective and later wrote a book about his father being the man who likely murdered the Black Dahlia. So, I actually didn't realise that the Black Dahlia was only 22. I don't know why, but I thought she was a lot older than that, but 22 is so young. But again, will we ever find out who actually murdered her? Maybe not. I mean, they have one prime suspect, but will they ever confirm or deny that it's him? Who knows? Like the article said, his son's actually come out and said that it was him. So, I mean, if his son's saying it's him, that's a pretty big accusation and I feel like would only be made if it was true. But you'll have to let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And let me know if you know of any other suspects in this case. The next unsolved mystery is the Wall Street bombing of 1920. Around lunchtime on September 16th, 1920, a horse-drawn cart pulled up in front of the USASA office across from the street from the JP Morgan building. The man driving the cart slipped into the midway crowd only moments before the cart exploded. 30 people were instantly killed as metal debris flew everywhere, and 300 were injured as a result of the explosion. In total, 38 people died. Despite an extensive investigation, authorities were never able to determine who loaded the cart with dynamite and metal weights. However, some suspected a group of Italians operating under the name American Anarchist Fighters may have caused the explosion, as they were suspected in a separate bombing only a year prior. The next unsolved mystery is the disappearance of the Flanagan Isles lighthouse keepers. The transatlantic steamer Arca was passing by the Flanagan Isle lighthouse on December 15th, 1900, when the captain and crew noticed the lighthouse was completely dark. A relief ship was sent out the following day to check on Flanagan Isle's 3 lighthouse keepers, James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and William MacArthur. While it appeared the table in the lighthouse's kitchen had been set up for dinner, the rescue crew found no one. A full search of the island led investigators to believe the men likely drowned during a storm while trying to secure equipment at the dock. However, a logbook supposedly kept by MacArthur told a different story. In the logbook, MacArthur wrote about a terrible storm that took place between the 12th and 15th, but indicated that all 3 men survived the storm. Some believed the logbook proved some sort of supernatural force, like a sea monster, was to blame for the man's deaths, but the logbook is now believed to have been completely fabricated. More likely than not, the men did drown during the storm, though some still suspect MacArthur may have murdered his fellow lighthouse keepers before taking his own life. If the logbook is fabricated and they all died during the storm, who is written in the logbook after the storm that they all survived? Like, okay, tell me it's fabricated, whatever. Give me evidence. I need to know who wrote that then. Who said that they survived the storm if all of them died and no one else is there, you know? I need more context. The next unsolved mystery is the Axeman of New Orleans. I really want to go to New Orleans, you guys. Like, I am desperate to go to New Orleans. I've never been to America, ever. And the main places that I want to go to, me and my girlfriend, she also wants to go to some as well. But the main places is New Orleans. I want to go so bad. Also want to go to LA and New York and Las Vegas. I want to go to Las Vegas so bad. Basically, I really want to go and see America. Anyway, let's get back into the story, which is about the Axeman of New Orleans. In 1918 and 1919, an unknown assailant attacked and murdered Italian grocers and their families in New Orleans. The individual eventually became known as the Axeman of New Orleans after murdering Joseph and Catherine Maggio on May 22, 1918. The Axeman used an axe from the couple's own home to bludgeon them. The Maggios were 2 of 6 individuals the Axeman murdered. He also injured another 6. On March 16, 1919, a New Orleans paper published a letter from the Axeman that read, quote, "I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time that I have just mentioned. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe." End quote. Jazz was played throughout New Orleans that night, and the true identity of the Axeman was never determined. Some believe it was a gang leader named Joseph Mumphrey, who had targeted Italian families in the past. The next unsolved mystery is the murder in room 1046. On January 4th, 1935, 19-year-old Artemis Ogletree was found beaten and murdered in 1046 of the Hotel President in Kansas City. At the time, however, investigators believed his name was Roland T. Owen. Owen had checked into the hotel a few days before his murder and was said to be acting strangely. He was heard fighting with a woman on one occasion, and one other, a man's voice, was heard coming from Owen's room. On the morning of January 4th, hotel staff found Owen laying on the floor of his room, beaten and bleeding. Owen had been tied up, strangled, beaten in the head, and stabbed numerous times. Despite his extensive injuries, Owen was still alive, and when asked who assaulted him, he replied, "Nobody." Owen eventually succumbed to his injuries, and it would take nearly 2 years for him to be correctly identified as Artemis Ogletree. While evidence was scarce, a woman's fingerprints were found on a glass in Ogletree's room, along with a bottle of sulfuric acid. An anonymous donor who also sent cash to give Ogletree a proper burial and flowers was sent to the funeral home with a note reading, "Love you forever, Louise." To this day, no one knows who Louise is or who murdered Artemis Ogletree, aka Roland T. Owen. I'm going to go ahead and end today's video here. I hope you liked it. There's a lot of spooky unsolved mysteries. Do you think any of them will ever be solved? Is there any that particularly stand out for you? For me, I just genuinely never think Jack the Ripper will be solved in the sense that we'll ever know who did it, because like I said, I feel like people make money off it now, which is just a shame. But let me know if you agree or if you have any other theories. Until next time, I'll see you all soon. Bye.